Thank you so much for making time to speak to us right here on Africa 411. I want to start first of all to get your thoughts on this because first of all, you are a man wearing different hats. Of course, you are an artist and also a legislator, and we have seen how coronavirus has affected artists globally. Talk to me a bit about how much you are trying to cope with this new normal that we are seeing today as a continent.
Well, like everybody else, the coronavirus pandemic has affected me immensely, both socially and economically. However, my biggest concern was what it could do to our people, what it could do to our population as Uganda, as East Africa, as Africa. And that's why we rose to the occasion and used what we had to try sensitize our people. I know people are still getting affected following the lockdown. Many people are going without food. And yes, I've seen women in my country go to police stations and demanding to be arrested with their children because they are sure the prisoners get fed and yet they are starving in their own homes. So it has affected various people in different ways, but we still persevere.
So coronavirus portrays a very uniqueness in itself because there is very little known about this particular virus, and therefore even its handling becomes a bit tricky. I want to read your thoughts on your own assessment of how your government, that is the government in Uganda, is actually handling this COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, coronavirus is like no other. I mean, in our lifetime and in recent history, we've not seen a pandemic like the coronavirus pandemic. I applaud, first of all, the people of Uganda for the quick response. And yes, initially, the government of Uganda took some measures that one would commend in terms of promoting social distancing and the restrictions that the president announced. Unfortunately, apart from the restrictions, there were no measures to help people cope with the changing times, with the challenges that they had to face, considering the lockdown, well knowing that the majority of our population work for a meal a day. Mm-hmm. And as time went on, it degenerated from not only having measures to ease life for the people, but one would say it became a business here in Uganda as the government of Uganda continued to acquire exorbitant loans, which loans are not accounted for and which use is not seen within the population. Mm-hmm. And as if that was not enough, here in our parliament, where I sit, though it turned out to be what many people on social media are calling a money heist. And recently each member of parliament was given, those in the ruling party was given 40 million on top of the 20 million that were all given under the guise of fighting COVID-19. So the government of Uganda has in this coronavirus period exposed itself as a government that is going to milk any kind of problem to its benefit and yes, to the detriment of its people.
Right. I wanna use the powers I have right now. They might not be very practical, but I want to lift you from your seat and place you in the seat of those who are in government position right now in terms of leadership and those who are making decisions. You wrote a piece titled "Uganda Must Take Robust Measures to Defeat the Coronavirus Pandemic." If you were in President Museveni's seat today, what is it that you'd have done differently in handling this pandemic?
Well, if I was President Museveni, which I'm not, I would seize this opportunity, first and foremost, to improve the healthcare system in Uganda. Mm-hmm. Just like it's been the cry of many Ugandans to have the healthcare fixed. We have an ailing healthcare system that explains why our political class never takes their health attention from Uganda here. I think since this pandemic locked everybody, including those that wield power in the country, and yes, it threatens everybody's life, it would be a great opportunity to fix our healthcare system, and I'm sure it would even get the support of the population. Now that we have the money that has been, appropriated by the parliament, the money that has been borrowed in its mass, I think this would be an opportunity to fix our healthcare system and to reconnect with the people. That would be my primary target.
Right. A majority of African leaders that we've talked to right here on Africa 411 seem to be saying the same thing, that we need to learn lessons and fix our healthcare system and invest, in the right places, as opposed to how we've been investing as far as our governments are concerned. But Bobi, do you feel, or do you see this already happening? Are you seeing signs of African leaders learning and actually starting to put into practice the lessons they're learning from COVID-19?
Well, unfortunately, here in Uganda, and I hope it's different in other parts of Africa, the leadership doesn't seem to be learning anything. Instead, the leadership seems to be seizing this opportunity to assert itself more in power. For a long time, President Museveni and his government have had the priority of maintaining their hold onto power and nothing else. And that explains why most of the money then and even now is being spent on patronage and buying out all elements that tend to put up resistance against misrule.
Yeah. Are there any, points that, or actually facts that point to this particular statement that you make?
Sure. Very many points. I just mentioned that members of parliament were given 20 million shillings, which I rejected, and a few other members of parliament. And I said it before, and I'll say it again, that this was a bribe, because over 1 trillion shillings was passed as supplementary budget, the biggest part of which was a classified budget. And as if that was not enough, recently the president sponsored a motion in parliament that would, pay tribute to him as a good leader through this pandemic. And this has cost Ugandans close to 20 billion shillings, because each member of parliament was given 40 million shillings as a payout. But that is not all. Right now is a time when the government is giving out stashes of money, buying out all voices of dissent, well knowing that now they are economically constrained and they are, very much easier to buy than when they could, work for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Bobi, before I let you go, there are those who feel that this is actually the time for nations to come together. This is a time for people to come together, regardless of their political parties or affiliation. What is your take, or what is your thought on that, especially looking at the fact that maybe this is the time when you could be offering your support to the current government in terms of trying to help the people, because COVID-19 knows no borders, knows no boundaries, knows no people in terms of their tribes and their political affiliations?
I completely agree, and my team and I have been offering all the support that we could give. It was the assertion of the Ministry of Health, following the guidelines from the World Health Organization, to promote social distancing, to promote hand washing, and promote all the measures to fight COVID-19. And yes, we took it on. We have been promoting in the recent past, the presidential directives against COVID-19. And yes, we have offered all assistance not only to government, but to fellow Ugandans. Like I mentioned, that many people in Uganda go without food because they don't work no more. And although President Museveni declared that anybody who's found giving food relief to the people of Uganda would be charged with attempted murder, because we believe President Museveni wanted to maximize this politically, we agreed, and yes, we've gone ahead to support the coronavirus response task force, which was sanctioned by President Museveni. We've gone ahead to support it with foodstuffs and the like, because we believe that this pandemic is threatening all our lives. We've been helpful, although again, the government of Uganda has, instead of appreciating and embracing that help, rolled out an even more lethal hand against the opposition. For example, as we speak right now, one of the members of parliament, my fellow member of parliament, the Honorable Francis Zake, is nursing wounds of torture. He cannot see after substance being poured in his eyes, and he was tortured for days simply because he gave out food relief to his constituents who were starving to death. So while we make an effort to support government initiatives, it is important that the government also embraces this with one love, so we can together as leaders save our people and save our nation.
Right, Bobby, if I played the devil's advocate here, when we've seen several pictures and images of various leaders trying to, offer support, relief support to constituents, even here in Kenya, and most of the time, a majority of people who have come to receive this relief are often exposed to even infections of COVID-19 because of the nature of their gathering. They're gathered in large crowds. Most of them are not usually wearing masks. What if someone argues and said probably what the government is trying to say is that we want to reduce such kind of gatherings in order to protect and safeguard the people?
Well, indeed, that was the argument of President Museveni. He claimed that we cannot give food relief to people because they will gather and therefore be exposed to the threat of contraction of the disease. But again, we also see it contradictory, because his ministers and members of the ruling party have been converging people in masses in their compounds, giving out food relief, and nothing happened to them. But again, I must also mention that myself and the Honorable Zake and other members of parliament in the opposition sat and we agreed that a maximum level of protection and caution must be observed. So we were not, and we don't give food to people who we call and gather in crowds. We instead pack the food and we get small border, we call them border here, but they are small transporting bikes that deliver this food to all these vulnerable people. And there we are able, to maintain the measures that stops the further spread of the disease. We even went ahead to ask the government of Uganda to give some standard operating procedures to the people that would love to give food relief to the citizens of Uganda, so that we don't just save people from contracting the coronavirus, or we don't just save people from dying of the coronavirus and they end up dying of hunger in their houses.
Right. Bobby, I want us to talk about Africa as a continent. You have been very instrumental through your music, talking about the unity of Africa and why we need to actually unite. Looking at how we've managed COVID-19 as a continent so far, there seems to be a confusion on whether we need to handle this as a united front in terms of the measures that each government is taking, or each government to just go it alone. And there's been a lot of confusion, and through this confusion, many lives are still being lost because each country is handling COVID-19 in its own unique way. How does this make you feel, first of all? And what do you think should be done by those who sit at higher offices at an African continental level in bringing the continent together in fighting such a pandemic?
Well, the continent should have come together a long time ago. If we had come together much earlier, maybe we would have fought the pandemic even with better ease. it should be noted that in some countries, like in Uganda, and I commend Uganda, the cases have been fewer. But as we speak now, most of the cases that we have in Uganda, the current cases, are truck drivers that come from other countries, mainly in Tanzania. So I believe that, yeah, if we as Africa had sat and have a united mind on fighting this pandemic, then it wouldn't be the case. So yeah, this should teach us that Africa needs to come together and work together, not only fighting this pandemic, but also fighting other vices like misgovernance and everything that goes with it.
Right. And so, therefore, if we're talking about the unity that we are looking at, I'd like to read your thoughts on what you think about the purported cure of COVID-19 in Madagascar, and how you think the continent should have approached this, because we've seen mixed reactions, while others say that it is not safe to even take it. But we have seen a section of Africans saying this is our problem. When it is from Africa, we tend to shun it. But if it is from the Western nations, we would be happily running for it.
Well, I'm a very proud African, not in word, but in deed and in faith. I believe in African solutions. I believe in African medicine. We are the oldest scientists. So I believe that much as the solution can come from the West or from outside Africa, indeed a solution can come from Africa. So I want to begin by encouraging a positive view on African medicine. Let it be tested. And if it's found to be helpful, to be curing the coronavirus, then this will be yet another cure that comes from Africa. I think it is absurd when we begin from a point of despising our own. Africa is magic. Africa is the source of healing. And I believe this could be a game changer in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic if it is tested and confirmed to be working.
Right. Let us move away from COVID-19 a bit and talk about politics now, because a better part of last year, 2019, and sometime this year, you were constantly, arrested, and sometimes, the way that you were handled was not also proper. When we saw those footages and the videos that were put out in several media houses, allow me to ask you now, what sort of relationship do you have with President Museveni as we speak today?
Well, I've said it before and I say it again, that it is not about me. It has never been about me. It's about the freedom, not only for me, but all other people. It has been seen that anybody, any voice that comes up to speak the truth is handled as if to send a message to all other people that intend to say the truth, that the truth is dangerous. Yes, we've been brutalized. Yes, we've been tortured, and we continue to be persecuted. Why? Because President Museveni wants to be a godly image, because he does not want any Ugandan to speak the truth. So, as we stand now, yes, I am a citizen whose freedoms have been abused, whose rights have been violated and continue to be violated. But again, I continue to stand up and say, I want to be free. And that freedom we will get, or we shall die trying to get it.
Right. And the elections are supposed to be in 2021, and it's just less than a year from now. We've seen or had some statements when President Museveni has been asked about this, and he seems to be, saying that anybody who would think of holding an election right now, with coronavirus, it will be madness. And therefore, there could be a possibility that these elections might be postponed if COVID-19 situation would not get better. I want to read your thoughts on this. What would it portend for Uganda? What would it portend for you as a politician there?
Well, everything, and I mean everything, including the struggle, the fight against the COVID-19, the success and the failure of everything begins and ends with leadership. We need better leadership. I'm strongly convinced that if we had better leadership, maybe we would be able to fight the COVID-19 pandemic with even better ease, with greater success. So us still being under lockdown, but again, no measures put to address it comes from leadership. Us receiving loads of money in terms of loans, which are going to have to be paid by our children and grandchildren, and yet that money is being siphoned, being mismanaged, and being bluntly stolen. All that begins and ends with leadership. So we need a people-centered leadership. We need accountable leadership. We need servant leadership, and we need that as soon as yesterday. Now that the law provides that we should have an election in 2021, I think we should go ahead and have an election, of course, observing maximum caution to make sure we don't endanger our people's lives. But I'm also hopeful that by the time we get to election time next year, we will have substantially defeated the COVID-19 pandemic, and we'll go to the election, inshallah.
Right. Finally, Bobi, they say a day in politics is just a very long time. I know a lot can change, a lot can happen within that particular day. Are there any, alliances ahead of these elections? We've seen this trend across African politics, even Haiti and Kenya. We've seen, former political enemies uniting just to be able to push their agenda. Are we potentially seeing Kizza Besigye, Bobi Wine alliance, or what are we looking at for 2021?
Well, that's the dream of every Ugandan, to see us together. I've said it before, and I say it to you here, that Ugandans are already uniting, waiting upon we, the leaders, to unite and lead them where they already see and want to go. So yeah, we are in discussions. I'm in touch with Dr. Kizza Besigye and all other forces of change. And God willing, we'll be able to resolve the issue by the time we go for nomination. We also believe that that would be a game changer in our politics. And we hope, everything else considered, we will come together and defeat President Museveni and his dictatorship.